أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ثم أما بعد. We talked about Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah in some details, and today inshallah we'll spend some time talking about Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah wa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. As we mentioned before, Imam Malik was 13 years younger than Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Abu Hanifa was born and lived and died in Iraq. And similarly, Imam Malik was born, lived, and died in Medina. And his nickname is Imam Dar al-Hijrah. Imam Dar al-Hijrah. There were a number of great scholars before Imam Malik in al-Madinah, including Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, al-Qasim Muhammad, and others. And he learned from all of them. And then he became, when this generation passed away, then he became the Imam of al-Madinah. And in this, number of scholars mentioned in their books hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said the time will come when people will come from long distance seeking knowledge from the scholar of the Medina. From the scholar of the Medina. And some scholars say that we thought this was Sa'id ibn Musayyib, but at the time of Sa'id ibn Musayyib was a great scholar of his time. There were also a number of other scholars in Medina. But at the time of Malik, he was the Imam of al-Madinah. And from here, the famous statement is made, هل يفتى ومالك في المدينة? Would anybody dare to give fatwa while Malik in Medina? So this became a proverb that people always say, that when someone is a great scholar or an expert in some areas, we always say that no one can speak about this in the presence of this person. So Imam Malik rahimahullah is the second great Imam in Sunni Islam after Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and we'll learn also that one of his brilliant students was Imam Shafi'i. We'll talk about him inshallah later. So Imam Malik ibn Anas was born in al-Madinah al-Munawwara. Some said in the year of 90, 93, 95, 96. But the strongest narration most of the scholars accept is that he was born in the year of 93. 93 of Hijrah. 93 years after the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. And you can tell that he's not of the Sahaba, obviously. He's not of the Tabi'in. He's Tabi'in. He was born to a very noble family. He's Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik ibn Anas ibn Amir. So he's known also as Malik ibn Amir. And his grandfather was a Sahabi who witnessed all the battles with the Prophet ﷺ except Badr. And the grandfather of his son, of his father, was one of the four people who carried the body of Uthman radiallahu anhu. As you know, when Uthman was killed in Medina, nobody was allowed to have access to his house, and he was fasting rahimahullah, and with these rebels, they jumped on his house and they killed him, and no one was allowed to come to Uthman's help. And when he died, only 4 people were allowed to take his body and to bury him in al-Baqi', and his grandfather was one of them. So he's coming from a very noble family, and when he grew up also in this environment of knowledge in Medina. When we have the Fuqaha al-Sab'a, the 7 known scholars of al-Madinah at that time. And he narrated that when he was young, his father asked him and his older brother about a mas'ala, question, fiqh question, and both him and his brother gave the answer, and the answer of his brother was the right one. And his father told him that yeah, your brother is right and you were wrong. And he did not like this. And he decided from this moment to do nothing in his life but to seek knowledge. And he went to Rabi'a, known as Rabi'at al-Ra'i, and his mother told him, this is the best person that you can go to. And she bought new clothes for him, new amama, just to look like a student of knowledge. And he went to Rabi'a, and he used to go and memorize the hadith that he narrates, and he goes and he writes them down from his memory, and then he keeps it with them. Since he was very young, he went from one scholar to another, and Ibn Hurmuz was the one that he stayed with him for 6 or 7 years. And other narration said 8 years, sitting with Ibn Hurmuz. And he was used to go to him and seek knowledge from him and write his knowledge. And he said sometimes I would go early in the morning to his house when his teacher was an old man, and then I don't leave until after Maghrib, sitting with him, asking him questions, listening to him, writing his knowledge. Nafi' Mawla ibn Umar, also one of the great scholars, the Mawla of Ibn Umar, so he has the knowledge of Ibn Umar, and he also was one of his teachers, and he took from him the knowledge of Abdullah ibn Umar, rahimahullah. Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri was one of the greatest scholars of hadith. At that time, Imam Malik also listened to him, and he took from him a number of hadith. And Imam Malik was known as a very sharp, very smart, has a very amazing memory. He said, one day I went to Imam al-Zuhri with Rabi'a, one of his teachers, Imam Malik's teachers. He went to Imam al-Zuhri because Imam al-Zuhri was a great scholar of hadith. So he said that he gave us about 40 or 50 hadith with all this chain of narration. And he said, so next day we went again to him, and he said, why don't you write the hadith that I teach you? And Rabi'a, the teacher of Imam Malik, was with Imam Malik. He said, there's someone here, by the way, he can tell you exactly what you said yesterday. Oh, really? Who is this? He said, this student, Malik. And he said, can you do that? He said, yes. I said, okay, go ahead. And Imam Malik kept saying all the hadith that Imam Zuhri narrated the day before, right? I don't know if I asked you about what we said yesterday with Imam Abu Hanifa, but you remember very well. But he read these 40 or 50 hadith with all chain of narration as if he's reading it from the book. And Imam Zuhri said that I didn't think that someone will memorize the hadith I memorize, but now I know there's someone who can have all these hadith in his memory. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, was teaching in the Masjid al-Nabawi when he was 21 years old. From a very young age, he was seeking knowledge, and when he was 21, he was sitting and teaching in the Masjid al-Nabawi. Interestingly, later on, when he gained more knowledge and he was more famous and people came from everywhere to listen to him, he used to teach in the same place where Umar radiallahu anhu used to sit, between the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and the mimbar. There was a place where Umar used to sit, give fatwa and qada, and he was the Amir al-Mu'mineen, you know. And he said, I want to sit in the same place, and he was influenced with the personality of Umar radiallahu anhu. And similarly, he lived in the house of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. As we mentioned before, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud traveled to Iraq, and he lived in his house also to be influenced by the personality and the knowledge of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud rahimahullah. And this same place where Umar used to sit was the same place where Rasulullah used to make his i'tikaf. When they put his like blanket or something to make i'tikaf. This is the same place of the i'tikaf of Rasulullah, the same place where Umar used to sit to listen to the questions of the people and so on. And the same place where Imam Malik, rahimahullah, used to sit and teach. With this very sharp memory and very great knowledge, Imam Malik was one of the people who were known to respect very much the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And sometimes when he talks about the Prophet ﷺ, he cries and he stops for a while out of respect to Rasulullah ﷺ. It was narrated that when people come to his house, students of knowledge come to his house to meet with Imam Malik. So his servant would go and ask them, he's asking you, what do you want, masail or ahadith? Are you coming to know what fiqh, or you come to take narrations of a hadith? If they said, no, we came from masail, then he goes right away to them and sits and answer their fiqhi questions. But if they said, no, we came for a hadith, he would go first, take a shower, and dress the best of his clothes, and applies perfume, and goes to teach or to narrate the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. And he was asked about this. He said, I would love to respect the saying of Rasulullah ﷺ. He would not go and talk about hadith. For fiqh, it's easier. But when it comes to hadith, he must first take shower and dress perfectly and has his own amama, and he walks and he get this oud, duhn al-oud, what you call the scent, that you put it in on the fire and produces bukhur, called bukhur. What do you call it? Huh? Oud. Right? So he makes sure that everything is perfect and he sits perfectly, you know, and then he starts saying, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, so and so. Another story, Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu also talked about how much Imam Malik used to respect the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, I was sitting in one of these meetings where Malik was teaching the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a scorpion came and bit him a number of times. And he said, I noticed that his color changed and he was suffering, but he did not stop. He continued, and then when he was done, Abdullah said, why didn't you just leave? You have a good excuse, you're a scorpion. And he said, no, I don't want to stop out of respect of hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For his taqwa and iman and fear of giving wrong fatwas, he used to always say, I don't know. He was heard a number of times saying, I don't know. He doesn't feel shy to say, I don't know. And it was narrated also that people came from far distance, from, I think from Egypt or from Iraq. People have some issues and some masail, so they wrote about 40 questions. And they sent 2 men to go to Malik to Medina and to get his answer, to go back to their people to tell them this is the answer of Malik. And the guy, these 2 people came to him and they asked him these questions, and he was able to give answer almost for 6 questions out of 40. And for the rest, he said, I don't know. I don't know. No, I have no knowledge. I don't know. And they said, we came from far away. Our people sent us to you. He said, go back to them and tell them Malik tells you he does not know. Imam Malik, you know, one of the great Imams of Islam, it doesn't feel shy or embarrassed to say, I don't know. People are waiting for your fatwa. Tell them, I don't know. And usually before he gives an answer, he says, Ma sha Allah la quwwata illa billah, and then he gives the answer. He listens to the question, he says, Ma sha Allah la quwwata illa billah, and then starts speaking. And sometimes when he gives his fatwa, he's heard a number of times. After he gives his fatwa, he says, Inna dhunnu illa dhannan wa ma nahnu bimustayqinin. This is a part of an ayah in Surah Al-Jathiyah. The disbelievers say about Al-Akhirah. No, we just assume an assumption, but we are not certain, we are not sure. So after he gives the fatwa, he have been heard saying this statement, Inna dhunnu illa dhannan. This is what I think is the right answer. This is similar to what Abu Hanifa said also. Remember when we talked about Imam Abu Hanifa, when he was asked, is what you say is the absolute truth? He said, no, it could be the absolute wrong. This is what I think. This is my ijtihad. This is my opinion. This is what I think is the truth. And Imam Malik here says, Inna dhunnu illa dhannan wa ma nahnu bimustayqinin. It's just an assumption. It's what I think. It's my ra'i, my opinion. But I cannot be 100% sure. Fiqh in general is not based on certain knowledge. This is what many people don't know. Sometimes people ask, what is the hukm of shara? What sharia says about this and that? And sometimes the mufti or the one who gives the answer said, hukm shara, so and so and so. And that's a big mistake. That's not true. This is what we think it is. Fiqh is not based on certainty. It's based on assumption. It's based on assumption. But we turn this opinion, these great opinions of great ulama into certainty. We do not know God's will, Allah's will. We don't know it for sure. In some cases, we know it for sure. Allah made it very clear, so we know for sure khamr is haram, zina is haram, riba is haram, fasting, Ramadan is obligatory, and praying 5 times a day and making hajj. We know this is Allah's will. Allah wants us to do these things, and Allah wants us not to do these things. Interestingly, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, for sure, we all know about it. The whole Muslim ummah know about it. Okay? But in the business of fiqh, the fuqaha try to find or to search for Allah's will. What does Allah want us to do? When we travel, do we have to still pray on time, or can we combine the prayer? What's Allah's will? What does Allah want us to do? We don't know. So the fuqaha make their ijtihad and said, I think we must still pray on time. And the others said, no. Allah subhanahu wants us or give us the permission to combine the prayer. So that's why we have different opinions, because we don't know Allah's will for sure. So why don't we know Allah's will for sure? Is it good or bad? It's very good. Why? Because it allows this diversity of opinions. It's mercy, it's rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If all ulama or all Muslim ummah agree on every single mas'ala in the world, then it will be just one way. And we have no other options. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed the fuqaha to make their own ijtihad and to reach their own conclusion. And they used to say that don't follow our opinions until you understand our logic, our rationale, our dalil. Okay? So Imam Malik rahimahullah used to say, also another narration, that he used to say, إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرْ أُخْطِئُ وَأُصِيبُ فَانظُرُوا فِي رَأْيِي. I'm just a human. I make, right decisions, and I make also wrong decisions. All right? So look at my opinion and my rationale behind it. فَمَا وَافَقَ الْكِتَابَ وَالسُّنَّةِ فَخُذْ بِهِ. Whatever you think is in the same line with the Quran and the Sunnah, in agreement with the Quran and Sunnah, follow it. And if you think my opinion goes against the Quran and the Sunnah, leave it. Don't just follow me in everything I say. I'm not a prophet, I'm just a human. The prophets are humans, but they receive the revelation. I sometimes make wrong conclusions. You have to look at my opinion. If you found this is what Imam Abu Hanifa exactly said. If you find another opinion that's better than mine, just follow it. If you found a hadith that goes against my opinion, ignore my opinion and follow the hadith. Because none of these Imams claim that they know every hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, every statement the Prophet ﷺ said. So when they make their opinion based on their rational thinking, when there's no hadith, and later on you found a hadith, then ignore my opinion and follow the hadith. Is it possible? Yes, it did happen in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. In the time of the Prophet, not every Sahabi knows everything the Prophet said. You know the story of the plague, when there was a plague and Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu was the leader of the army, and they heard about this plague, and some of his companions said, no, don't go, because if you go, the entire army will die. And he said, well, we came to fight fi sabilillah, and if this happens, let it be. So what? We'll die as shuhada. So there was a debate, and they decided to write a message to Umar in Medina. Right? So Umar radiallahu anhu rationally thought, no, don't go there. Don't go there. And Abu Ubaidah wrote back to him and said, well, we are here for sabilillah, and if we died, we'll die for sabilillah. So, and should we run away from the qadr of Allah? If the qadr of Allah for us to die because of this plague, then let it be. And Umar said, no, we're not escaping the qadr of Allah. And he said, if you are taking care of your camels and you want to take them for grazing, and you have two lands, one is full of grass and the other one is empty, to which of the two lands you will take your camels? He said, I will take my camels to the land that has grass in it. I said, similarly, we are running away from the qadr of Allah to the qadr of Allah. In other words, we cannot escape the qadr of Allah anyway, but we just need to do the right thing. And then Umar asked, did any one of you, his companions, heard anything from the Prophet ﷺ about this plague thing? And one of the Sahaba said, yes, I heard Rasulullah ﷺ saying that if you heard about the plague in one land, don't go to it. And if it happens in your hometown, don't get out of it, in order not to spread this plague elsewhere. So Umar asked about the hadith and he found it. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari also came and he knocked the door of Umar, and Umar was busy like 3 times, and then he left. Umar went out to find who was knocking the door. Oh no, he knew that's Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, but when he went out, he did not find him. And then when he met him later on, he said, why didn't you wait? I was just busy with something. He said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ saying that knock the door 3 times. If you get no answer, just leave. Don't keep knocking the door to annoy the people inside. And Umar said, I need another one to witness that Rasulullah ﷺ said that. So he brought another Sahabi. He said, yes, I heard the Prophet ﷺ saying that. So now 2 Sahaba witnessed that the Prophet ﷺ said so and so. So the ulama were aware that none of them can claim that if the Sahaba themselves did not hear the Prophet ﷺ saying everything, nobody can claim that I know everything the Prophet said. And similarly, the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een also cannot claim that they know every hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So they used to say that if you found out that there is a hadith that in the same point where we made a decision that goes against our decision, just ignore our decisions and follow the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And he made a very famous statement. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, when he was teaching in the Masjid al-Nabawi, made this very profound and meaningful and thoughtful statement. He said, كُلٌّ يُؤْخَذُ مِنْ كَلَامِهِ وَيُرَدْ إِلَّا صَاحِبِ هَذَا الْمَقَامِ. He was teaching very near from the mimbar and the grave of the Prophet. He said, everybody, all people, all scholars, you can take part of their knowledge and return or criticize or ignore part of what they say, except Sahib Hadha al-Maqam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? In other words, nobody is infallible. No one is ma'soom, including himself. You know, in Sunni Islam, we know only Rasulullah is ma'soom. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But no matter how great a Sahabi or a Tabi or a scholar is not ma'soom. He can make mistakes, so you can accept much of his knowledge or opinions, but you can also say, in this point he was wrong. Does this make sense? It does make sense. Do we follow this? Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we think of our scholars as almost as prophets, as they have never made mistakes. And no, the Imam said so and so. Yes, the Imam said so and so, but he's human, and sometimes he makes mistakes, and that's why their students disagreed with them, right? And sometimes they themselves change their opinion. See, no, I was wrong on this, and they changed their opinion. Imam Malik was also known as a person of great intelligence, very smart, and he has this sense of called firasa. Firasa means that he can tell if someone has like a brilliant future or not. So when Imam Shafi'i came to him and he saw Imam Shafi'i frequently coming to his, and we'll talk about this inshallah later on, and he told him, "What's your name, son?" He said, "My name is Muhammad." He said, "Ya Muhammad, ittaqillah, because I think you'll be something in the future." This is when Shafi'i was a young boy coming to him. From that moment, he sensed that this boy will be something. So fear Allah, stay away from committing sins, because you'll be something in the future. He was very, very patient when he was seeking knowledge, and he talked about this. He said, "لا يبلغ أحد من هذا العلم حتى يضر به الفقر." If you really want to seek knowledge, you don't want to think about money. Rather, you need to spend your money in seeking knowledge. You will never reach the level of scholarship until poverty bites you. In other words, you cannot get both. If you want to seek knowledge, forget about money. Money can come later on, but that should not be your intention. Very, very few scholars were born and raised and lived in a very luxurious or to a wealthy family. This including Imam Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi. He was born, his father was like prime minister, and he was coming from a very wealthy family. And one of the scholars, regular scholars who were born as very poor, came from very poor family, and they were working very hard to seek knowledge. And he was debating with Ibn Hazm, who was also have a very, very sharp mind, and is very good in debating. And he told him, "You, Ibn Hazm, you were born and you have this golden spoon in your mouth. You did not suffer like we did suffer. You didn't see us, or just spending days hungry." And Imam Ibn Hazm told him, "Well, that's a good argument for me, not against me. You sought knowledge to become wealthy, but I sought knowledge for the sake of knowledge." You just try to make the point. But the majority of the scholars, in fact, if you read their biography, you will find out the majority of the scholars did not have time to do business. As we mentioned, Imam Abu Hanifa, when he was going to the market, Imam Sha'bi told him that, "No, just stay away from this business thing, sit and learn, because you are very brilliant, you'll be something." And this actually was a turning point in the life of Abu Hanifa. He listened to Imam Sha'bi when he gave him this advice, and this advice helped not only Abu Hanifa, but the entire Ummah, right? And from there, the idea of endowment, by the way, these brilliant students, they always used to enjoy this scholarship. When Muslims built a huge civilization, they used to give money to these scholars or students of knowledge in order to be able to survive, not to spend their life doing work, but rather to stay in the masjid and seek knowledge. So Imam Malik, rahimahullah, also used to spend so much time waiting. He goes to his sheikh's house, and he used to take a pillow with him to put it on the ground, sit on it, and cover himself in a very cold weather, waiting for his sheikh to wake up and to get out, so he go and ask him to get knowledge from him. And there was also some narrations that while he was seeking knowledge, he had to sell the wood of the ceiling of his house. Just this is the only thing he had, so he brought it and he sold it in order to get some money to be able to spend on himself and his family. One of the characteristics of Imam Malik is, let me talk about his physical appearance. He was tall, kind of heavyweight, not fat, but heavyweight, very handsome, and interestingly, he was blonde, not just white, he was Caucasian. And according to some narration that he is ashqar, yani, not just abiyad. He was, you can say that he was very white and very handsome with blue eyes. Think of Imam Malik as someone who was blonde, and handsome, tall, with blue eyes, and he used to also take very good care of his clothes. And he used to later on, when he became to some extent wealthy, he used to take very good care of his clothes. And he dresses the most expensive and beautiful clothes, and amama, and applies perfume. And he said that scholars should be treated with respect, and they should respect the knowledge they have. Right? We talked about this also. Imam Abu Hanifa was like that, right? They were both, this is one of the common things between the two of them. Imam Abu Hanifa was very thin. Imam Malik was not thin, he was like good weight, he was tall, and he has a very long beard and very wide, it's like wide and long. And he used to also put this oud and perfume in it, and so on, with big and beautiful amama. One of the characteristics of Imam Malik is the high dignity, and people used to be in awe of him, of his personality, of the gravity of his personality. He does not talk so much. He goes from his house to his place, sits down, and he teaches, and very focused on the subject. And people who attend his lectures and at the same time they get the chance to visit the Khalifa Abu Ja'far al-Mansur or al-Mahdi, they said, we have said to Malik and we said and talked to the Khalifa, and wallahi, we were in more awe of Malik, we have more reverence to Malik than the Khalifa, because of the way he looks and the way he speaks and his character. One day he was talking to Abu Ja'far Mansur, and Abu Ja'far Mansur's sons came getting in and out. And Abu Ja'far Mansur, this is a great Khalifa and he's Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time. And he said, do you know who this is? This is my son. He's just afraid of you. He's afraid of you. He said about the way he looks and the way he chooses clothes and perfume, he said, ما أحب لأحد أنعم الله عليه إلا أن يرى أثر نعمته عليه. This is copying the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you so much, this should appear in the way you look. It's very inappropriate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives someone so much, and he looks dirty and with dirty and old clothes and old shoes. And why is that? One day the Prophet ﷺ saw someone who looks very ugly, not his face, but his clothes is not organized and it's like dirty and he looks like poor. And then Rasulullah ﷺ asked him, what kind of wealth do you have? He said, I have all kinds of wealth. I have properties and I have land and I have gold and silver and cash and camels and cows and I have every kind of money I have. Very wealthy. And he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى أَثَرَ نِعْمَتِهِ عَلَى عَبْدِهِ. Allah likes to see, when Allah gives you so much, Allah likes to see this reflected in the way you look. You know, one extreme to be extravagant, and the other extreme is to be very stingy and not to spend on your. So when Allah gives you so much and you still look like a poor person. I said, no, zuhd, abstinence is in your heart. It's not in the way you look. As long as you are not worshipping these clothes and money and things, just enjoy the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look good, man. Allah likes to see you look good, dress good. Not to go to one extreme or the other. Just be moderate and enjoy the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One thing we need to know about Imam Malik is that he is the first one to write a book in Islam. His book, Al-Muwatta, is the first book ever to be written in Islam. Imam Shafi'i said about this book, I don't know any book after the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's more accurate than Al-Muwatta, Muwatta Imam Malik. You know how long did it take for Imam Malik to write this book? 40 years. 40 years. He has these tons of hadith. He grew up in this environment of muhaddithin in Medina. They know the fatwa of the Sahaba, they know the hadith of the Prophet, they know the judgment, qada of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali. And so they inherited this. He grew up in this and he was very strict. Very, very strict when it comes to considering a hadith sahih. Right? So he has a certain chain of narrations from him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's only four or five people in it. And every hadith written in his book Al-Muwatta is absolutely hadith sahih. And all ulama agree this Muwatta is very, very accurate. So when you find a hadith in Muwatta Malik, just take it and don't worry. Because Malik himself was very strict. Now we know Sahih al-Bukhari, right? It came later on, right? But Muwatta Malik was much earlier than Sahih al-Bukhari. It was a book of fiqh and book of hadith at the same time. And he is the first one who thought of writing the hadith based on the chapters of fiqh. So the first chapter is Tahara. Then he collected the hadith of Tahara in this chapter. And then he mentioned his opinions, his fiqh. And then he talked about Salah. Then he brings the hadith about adhan, about the masajid, and then the hadith about the time of the salah, and then, and so on. Then talk about zakah, and he brings the hadith in this subject, put it together. So it's a book of fiqh and book of hadith. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, his son asked him, who has the most accurate narrations from Imam al-Zuhri? Because again, Imam al-Zuhri was the one who was asked by Umar ibn Abdul Aziz to collect the sunnah of the Prophet. So Imam al-Zuhri was, the bank of hadith, if you want. So he asked him, who is the best, because Imam al-Zuhri has many students, which one is more accurate? He said, Malik ibn Anas. That's the opinion of Imam Ahmad. And he said, whose opinion in fiqh is the most accurate? He said, Imam Malik. And then he said, Imam Malik is the most accurate in everything. When it comes to the hadith, take it from Malik. إذا جاءك الحديث من مالك فشد به يدك أو فشد يدك به. When the hadith comes to you from Malik, hold fast to it because it's accurate, very accurate. So Imam Malik, rahimahullah, when he wrote Al-Muwatta, it took 40 years to complete this work. The first and the most accurate book, according to Imam Shafi'i, after the Quran. موطأ الإمام مالك رحمه الله. ما في الأرض، الإمام الشافعي said, ما في الأرض كتاب بعد كتاب الله عز وجل أنفع من موطأ مالك. There is no book after the Quran more useful to this ummah than the Muwatta of Imam Malik. When we talk about Imam Abu Hanifa, remember, Imam Abu Hanifa did not write any book in fiqh, I mean. He wrote in Aqa'id, fiqh al-Akbar, and some messages or rasail, yani. But Imam Malik was the first one to write a book in both fiqh and hadith. So Imam Shafi'i says no book that's more useful after the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the Muwatta of Imam Malik. Imam Ibn Mahdi also said the same thing. I don't know any book in Islam after the Quran than the Muwatta of Imam Malik. Imam Ahmad also was asked about Muwatta Imam Malik ibn Anas, فقال ما أحسنه لمن تدين به. If you want to live or understand your religion based on this, how beautiful it is. If you want to live your life as a good Muslim based on Muwatta al-Imam Malik. There are plenty of scholars who wrote the explanation of Malik, Sharh, يعني Sharh al-Muwatta, because the Muwatta is what Imam Malik himself wrote. And sometimes, or many scholars came after that to write explanation, further explanation of Imam Malik, including Imam al-Qurtubi and Imam also al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi al-Maliki. He was the Imam of of the Maliki scholars in the 6th century. Ibn al-Arabi, who wrote also Ahkam al-Quran. He was the head of the Maliki scholars in the 6th century, later on. And he also wrote a book in Sharh al-Imam Malik. And also Imam Suyuti, the Shafi'i, great Imam Shafi'i, who wrote Tabyid al-Sahifa fi Manaqib Imam Abu Hanifa. He wrote a book about the greatness of Imam Abu Hanifa. He also wrote a book or number of books actually, كشف المغطى عن الموطأ وتنوير الحوالك في موطأ Imam Malik, nice names. Imam al-Suyuti al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. Number of, was also Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. We mentioned this before. There are many people who narrated al-Muwatta, and Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, the student of Abu Hanifa, is one of these great scholars who wrote and the Sharh al-Muwatta based on the riwayah of Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. Also Imam Malik suffered like Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah during the time of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. We mentioned before when we talked about Abu Hanifa that Abu Ja'far al-Mansur wanted Imam Malik to be the supreme judge, Qadi al-Qudah, and Imam Abu Hanifa refused because he was supporting the revolution against him by Muhammad al-Nafs al-Zakiyya, the son of Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, and his brother Ibrahim ibn Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, and both were killed, and Abu Ja'far al-Mansur prevailed. The Wali, the governor of Medina, who was governing for Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur was in Iraq at that time, he heard that Imam Malik is teaching or narrating the hadith that the talaq of al-mukrah la yaqa'. There's a hadith that says that if someone forced someone to divorce his wife, this divorce does not count. Right? So what's the implication of this? If you take this and apply it to the political environment at that time, it means that those who are afraid of Abu Ja'far Mansur and give bay'ah to him, right? This bay'ah does not count, right? So this bay'ah is not legitimate. Now the bay'ah given in many so-called Muslim countries, monarchy, it's just a joke, right? When the king dies, some number of people come to the palace and give bay'ah, and khalas, the ummah gave bay'ah to the new king. It's a big joke, and they call it bay'ah shar'iyya. Now he's shar'i, he's a king because Islam gave him this authority. It's not just because of his family, his last name. Anyways, so the bay'ah used to be taken from people, and some people have to give bay'ah because otherwise they'll be in trouble. So by implication, this hadith of the one who divorced his wife because of the pressure put on him, this talaq does not count, and similarly this bay'ah does not count. So, and because some people also did not like Imam Malik, because he was very famous, people jealous, of course. And there is, by the way, jealousy between scholars. There's a very well-known fact that scholars who lived in the same time, they feel jealous of one another. And that's why the ulama of the hadith, when one imam says something bad about another Imam, who does not consider him to be trustworthy or something, he said, no, 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 we'll not accept this shahada testimony because they were living in the same time, in the same place. So this is the jealousy of scholars. So they told the governor of Medina, Malik is giving this hadith, and people expanded the explanation of this, and they said, therefore, those who give bay'ah to Abu Ja'far Mansur, this bay'ah does not count because they were forced to give this bay'ah. So he sent to Malik and told him, don't ever talk about this hadith again. Now you have this clash between the political authority and the religious authority. Imam Malik was the religious authority. People come from Morocco, come from Iraq, from Sham, from everywhere, seeking knowledge from this huge scholar. And then this governor, he sent someone to ask him about this hadith, to see whether Malik would say, no, 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 I don't want to get involved in politics. Then he sent someone and he asked him about this, and Imam Malik narrated the hadith. He said, yes, Rasulullah said, so on and so on. So the governor of Medina took Imam Malik, put him in prison, and they beat him. Can you imagine this great Imam? They used to pull his hand, just put ropes in his hand and pull it, different directions, and beat him badly and put him in prison. And the people of Medina did not like this. And Abu Ja'far Mansur heard about that. And he said, no, don't do that. Release him immediately. Then when he came for Hajj, he sent people to bring Imam Malik to him. And he said, I swear by Allah, I didn't know about what happened to you. And when I heard about this, I did not approve this. And I asked this governor to come to me all the way from Medina to Iraq in the back of a mule or a donkey or something like that. That's just to humiliate him, and I put him in prison, and I doubled the punishment for him. He said, Jazakallahu khairan, but I am telling you, I forgive him because of his nasab to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because this governor of Medina was also related to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, because of that, and because of his relation to you, I forgive him. And Abu Ja'far Mansur, of course, respected that. Imam Malik, interestingly, he used to accept gifts from these khulafa. And some people said, well, it's not appropriate for you to take gift from khulafa. He said, no. When it comes from the Khalifa himself, that's okay. But when it comes from people less than him, I won't accept it. He said, when they do respect the people of Ahl al-Muru'ah, that's okay. We should encourage the khulafa to respect the ulama. But this is not used, or this money was not used for him to change his opinion. But respecting Ahl al-Muru'at is a good in of itself. I don't see anything wrong with that, he said. It was narrated also that one time this Khalifa gave him I think 30,000 dinar, a huge amount of money, to buy a good house in Medina and so on. And he accepted that. And later on, also in the season of Hajj, Abu Ja'far Mansur, it was Abu Ja'far Mansur or Mahdi, one of the Khulafa, sent to him and he said, I have some fiqh questions, so if you can please come. He said to the messenger, who came to him, said, go and tell the Khalifa that if he wants knowledge, he should come to me, not me go to him. If you seek knowledge, you go to knowledge. Knowledge does not come to you. And then the Khalifa, when Khalifa came to him, he told him, now I want you to come to me to live with me in Iraq. And Imam Malik brought the money, the 30,000 that he gave to him. He said, well, this is your money. I will never ever leave Medina. I want to live my life and to die in Al-Madinah Munawwar. And if you think the gift you give to me will make me lenient in this, you are wrong. Here is your money. I'm not in need. I will never leave Al-Madinah. He said, no, 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 I don't want to bother you. Take the money and go back to Medina. And he took the money and went back to Medina. And was extremely generous. He used to give so much to those who are in need. So he also suffered. Imam Abu Hanifa, as we learned that yesterday, he suffered twice in the time of the Umayyads, at the time of the Abbasids, and some narrations actually suggest that he died in the prison in the time of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. Some of the statements he made, rahimahullah, that reflect his wisdom and his taqwa and iman and real knowledge. He said that al-ilmu nafurun la ya'nasu illa biqalbin taqiyyin khashi'a. Knowledge by nature is difficult. It's difficult to collect the knowledge. It's always like to go away from you. So it will never come to someone unless he has a soft heart and humble heart that's full of taqwa and khushu'. And he said, understanding that knowledge, becoming a knowledgeable person, this will make you very famous and people will come to you. You could be a superstar, celebrity. And this is what happens to people like to be a celebrity. Because knowledge, people need knowledge, right? And someone is eloquent and he's has a lot of knowledge, people come to him and treat him as celebrity. He said, Imam Malik, rahimahullah, ينبغي للرجل إذا خوِل علما وصار رأسا يشار إليه بالأصابع أن يضع التراب على رأسه ويمقت نفسه إذا خلا بها. When someone becomes knowledgeable, famous, people point to him with the finger, right? He should put the dust on his head and blame himself when he stays by himself. In other words, he should not be deceived by how people treat him. Some of these scholars are treated like kings. You know the rock stars, right? And when they go to a conference or when they walk in somewhere, they are, people just want to touch them or shake hands with them, and some enjoy this very much. But Imam Malik said, no. When this happens, when people come to you seeking knowledge from you, don't be deceived by this fame and love and respect you get from people. When you are by yourself, you need to put the dust on your head. And you need to blame yourself, because you know yourself better than anybody else. وَلَا يَفْرَحُ بِالرِّيَاسَةِ He should not be happy with this position he gets. He will either become a judge or supreme judge or grand mufti or something. فَإِنَّهُ إِذَا اضْطَجَعَ فِي قَبْرِهِ وَتَوَسَّدَ التُّرَابِ سَاءَهُ ذَلِكَ كُلَّهُ. Because at the time when he is alone in his grave, right, he will not like this fame and position. It might hurt him very badly. He will be alone. He, maybe this position he got, he did not fulfill the amana of this position very well. So you just don't be deceived by this fame and this great treatment you get. He also gave an advice to one of his students, Ibn Wahb. He told him, اتق الله واقتصر على علمك فإنه لم يقتصر أحد على علمه إلا نفع وانتفع. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not say anything beyond your knowledge. اقتصر على علمك. Say what you know. What you don't know, don't bother. Say, I don't know. Okay? If you do that, if you teach only what you know, right, you will benefit and others will benefit from you. Because what happens when people ask a question, if you don't know, it's very embarrassing to say I don't know. Just say something, say anything. Right? Say, no, don't do that. Say just, I don't know. Only teach or speak about what you know. Don't talk about what you don't know. If you do that, if you teach only what you know, you will benefit from the knowledge and people will benefit from your knowledge. If you are seeking, by doing that, if you are seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will get what you are asking for. And if you want dunya with this knowledge, you have nothing in your hand. That's not knowledge. The knowledge that does not lead to taqwa and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's not knowledge. You have nothing in your hand. if you are seeking with this knowledge the pleasure of this dunya. He made a statement that really touched my heart, and this tells you that these scholars were not only very dry minded, just talking about fiqh and masail and details, and they have nothing to do with the heart. Imam Malik says that من أحب أن تفتح له فرجة في قلبه فليكن عمله في السر أفضل منه في العلانية. A beautiful statement. He said, if you want to have an opening in your heart, because sometimes we feel that our heart is closed. We don't know, we don't see, we don't feel. Our heart is full of dunya and full of pleasure of money and wealth, children, business, appointments, this and that. But the heart are closed. We listen to the Quran, we listen to whether we don't, there's nothing there. But if you want to have an opening in your heart to receive the light, the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you really want to have this opening in your heart, that expose your heart to tawakkul, sidq, yaqeen, sincerity, your work in secret should be greater than the work you do in public. You have to have a secret with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, don't be active in public and very inactive in secret. Now, your work in secret, your sadaqah, your qiyamul layl, your siyam that nobody knows about, should be greater than your work, or better than your work in public. And he said about zuhd, you know, the abstinence. He said, az-zuhd fi dunya, the real zuhd is not to wear dirty or old clothes. But he said the real abstinence in dunya is طيب المكسب وقصر الأمل. طيب المكسب وقصر الأمل. To make money from halal way and not to have very, very long hopes in this dunya. In other words, to always think about the time when you will depart from this dunya. قصر الأمل. Amal means hope, ambition. Because what happens is, Rasulullah ﷺ said, people have plenty of hopes, plenty of goals. You don't have one settled goal that you want to achieve. This is the problem. If we have one goal and achieve and you are satisfied, that's fine. But what happens is, once we achieve our goal, we have another goal. It's a moving object, right? Nobody is happy, nobody is satisfied. Everybody wants to get more. You achieve this, okay, I want to achieve that, and then achieve that. I want to get this, and then I want to get this, and then I want to get this. And what happens? What stops all this? Death, right? And the amal, the hopes are so long. The Prophet made a long line. He said, this is the amal. And then he made a cross of this long line, another line. He said, and this is death. You know, long line, and then the cross line. He said, people have long lists of hopes and goals, objectives they want to achieve. And this is the ajal. So the amal is long and the ajal comes and cut it short. This is not to say that we should not be ambitious. We should our best to improve our best, but we should also think of our akhirah as if it's going to happen tomorrow. So when you work for dunya, work as if you will never die, and when you think and work for the akhirah, work as if you will die tomorrow. This balance that many people cannot achieve, that we should always think about. He said also to one of his students, عليك بمجالسة من يزيد في علمك قوله ويدعوك إلى الآخرة فعله. Go to those whose speech increase your knowledge and their act increase your love of al-akhirah. So you learn from what they say increase your knowledge, and the way they behave will make you al-akhirah oriented person. But never ever go to those whose speech will increase your knowledge and their behavior will make you love dunya more. Because this is, Imam Malik was aware of the fact that so many people are scholars and people come and listen to them, And this actually makes them more dunya oriented, right? The seekers of dunya. So I said, don't go and listen to these people. In other words, the real scholars, Imam Malik wants to say that you want to seek knowledge from are those who have knowledge and taqwa at the same time. Of course, we cannot open the heart of the person to see if he has taqwa or not, but at least his behavior. People always ask me, how do we know if the person has taqwa? And the answer is simple. What if you see him always seeking fame, position, always frequently visiting the politicians and sit with them and befriend them, then this is a sign. You just make the judgment based on the behavior of the scholar. And Imam al-Shafi'i said, I'll just end with the testimony of the ulama for him. Imam al-Shafi'i said, إِذَا ذُكِرَ الْعُلَمَاء فَمَالِكُ النَّجْمِ. When the ulama are mentioned, the superstar is Malik. This is Imam al-Shafi'i, student of Imam Malik. You remember what he said about Abu Hanifa? He said, الناس عيال في الفقه على أبي حنيفة. When it comes to fiqh, everybody needs Abu Hanifa. And he said about Malik, when the scholars are mentioned, Malik is the superstar. وقال إذا جاءك الحديث من مالك فشد يدك به. When the hadith comes to you from Malik, and Malik approved it, then hold fast to it. And when Malik, Imam al-Shafi'i said, when Malik has some doubt in a hadith, he does not include it in his books. He has some doubt. In other words, he does not recognize the hadith unless he's 100% sure it's authentic. Imam al-Nawawi, who was one of the great Shafi'i scholars, author of Riyadh al-Salihin, and the one who wrote also the Sharh Imam Muslim, he said, أجمعت طوائف العلماء على إمامة مالك وجلالته وعظيم سيادته وتبجيله وتوقيره والإذعان له في الحفظ والتثبت. So, Imam al-Shafi'i, can you stop please this adhan, because there's a false adhan. Oh, someone's charging his phone, it seems. So Imam al-Nawawi, the great Shafi'i scholar, said that all schools of thought, all ulama of hadith, of fiqh, of all madhahib, they have ijma'. They all agreed that Imam Malik rahimahullah is a great Imam, as Imam of Hadith and Imam of Fiqh, and all of them agree on respecting him and recognize him as a scholar of Hadith who is very authentic when he narrates a Hadith and Fiqh. Imam al-Dhahabi wrote about the biography of the Imam. اتفق لمالك مناقب ما علمتها اجتمعت لإحنا. There are a number of virtues or advantages gathered together to Malik that did not gather together to someone else. One of which is he lived a very long life, almost 87 years old. He was 93, he was born in 93 and died in 179, right? So he lived a very long life, right? And his riwayah is very, very authentic, very sharp mind, understanding, and encyclopedia kind of knowledge. And everybody agreed that his riwayah is authentic. And number 4, the ijma' of all Imams, all madhahib, about the knowledge of Imam Malik. Imam Bukhari narrated on Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, who said that Imam Malik is Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. When it comes to the Hadith, Imam Malik is Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know, the word Amir al-Mu'mineen is a political term, Khalifa. And he said when it comes to Hadith, Malik is Amir al-Mu'mineen in Hadith. plenty of testimony of the Imams to Imam Malik rahimahullah. Imam Malik, in the end of his life, he did not teach in the masjid anymore. He was teaching only in his house because he was sick. And the kind of illness he has is that he cannot control his bladder. So urine would come out. And he was asked about this, and he said, in the last day of his life, he told his people, he said that I just want to let you know why I did not teach in the masjid, because I out of respect to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would not like to teach in his masjid his ahadith while I'm not in full tahara. So he's teaching in his house. He was sick for 22 days, and he died in the end of these 22 days. When one of the people visited him the last moment of his life, he said that I was one of those who visited Malik, and they said, how do you find yourself? What's going on? How do you feel? And Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he said, I don't know what to tell you, but about himself. He said, I don't know what to tell you, but what I'm sure about is that tomorrow you will be surprised when you see the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be amazed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you a kind of forgiveness that you cannot even imagine. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith that لا يموتن أحدكم إلا وهو يحسن الظن بالله. You should not die except in the state of having good thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah will forgive you and have mercy on you. To have great hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you talk about hope and fear, the ulama said when you are healthy, still alive, then you should fear Allah more. But at the time of weakness, the end of your life, then you should have more hope than fear. So this was one of the last statements Imam Malik made. He said, we did not leave this majlis until we close his eyes. He died in this. He said, you will be surprised. Allah will show you kind of forgiveness that nobody have ever thought about. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so forgiving, so loving. This was one of the great Imams, and his madhab, of course, spread. One important thing I forgot to mention, very important, I just want to end with. As you said, as you have seen, Imam Malik, rahimahullah, used to warn people from taking advantage of knowledge and not to be deceived by this great fame. And he was very truthful in this. Remember when I mentioned the first time why this madahib, not other madahib? One of the reasons is that truthfulness. These people are very truthful. They have this secret in their hearts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not deceived by the fame and the money. And Abu Ja'far Mansur, when he apologized for Malik for what happened to him, he said, I want your book, Al-Muwatta, I want to Xerox it and send it to every city in this huge Abbasid empire to be the book for Qada and Fatwa. No Fatwa or Qada should come out of any book but Muwatta, to be the official madhab. And he said, with all due respect, that's not a good idea. Can you imagine? Your book, the book you spent years writing, it became a very authentic book. Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Khalifa, wants this big book to be the official book for Qada, to be the legal system is built. This becomes the law of the land for this huge empire. And every mufti must give fatwa based on this. He said, no, that's not a good idea. It takes a great deal of taqwa and iman and knowledge for someone to refuse this great offer. If this happened, maybe all of us would have been Maliki today, right? He said, no, that's not a good idea. Why is not a good idea? He said, because the Sahaba of Rasulullah ﷺ did not live in Medina, all of them. As we mentioned before, some of them went to Iraq, someone went to Sham, some went to Egypt, some went to Yemen. And they have different knowledge, and they established this knowledge. So you cannot force the people of Iraq to follow my madhab, which comes from, Sahaba also. And the people of Yemen, the idea of having all people following one madhab, that's not a good idea. It's always good to have variety of opinions in madhab. It's not going to work. You are making things difficult on people. You are making things difficult on people if you force all people to follow one madhab. I wish we understand this legacy of these great Imams. That's why they were Imams. They were great scholars because they understood Islam is so huge, so big, and no one can claim his opinion is the absolutely truth, the right opinion. Let it be flexible. Let people follow whatever knowledge they receive. The people of Iraq, they received the knowledge of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. You're going to say to them, no, forget about Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ibn Mas'ud, and Nakhai, and Salman ibn Abi, Hamad ibn Abi Sulaiman, and